Joining us now, member of the Judiciary and Armed Services Committees, Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, who's introducing a resolution today on protecting the press. We'll get to that. Curious as to what you know about where the separation policy stands. We know they ended the policy, but there's still a lot of children's lives hanging in the balance. Are they going to be able to resolve this completely?
Hundreds of children are still separated from their parents.
Do we have a good number on that? Are we in the hundreds?
There are no good numbers.
No good numbers still. Why aren't there good numbers still? Why can't we get the government? Why can't we get the Trump administration to give us good numbers on how many children they seized from the arms of their parents and have now lost?
That is the question we're going to be asking tomorrow when we have ICE come before the Judiciary Committee. We're going to have a hearing. And the question of whether this policy is the result of incompetence and carelessness or deliberate cruelty, I think right now what we have is malign neglect. The children are still separated because of the incompetence and perhaps carelessness, but the policy itself, and Americans should be really angry about it, is the result of consciously and purposely inflicted cruelty.
Yeah, the focus on ICE actually is misdirected. The focus is on the policy that this would be like Americans being angry at TSA if Donald Trump decided to seize babies from a mother's arms when they're going through the metal detectors.
That is exactly right, and that's why we've urged the chairman of the committee, Chuck Grassley, to have not just ICE, but also the Office of Refugee Resettlement, the Department of Homeland Security's leadership in general, and the Department of Health and Human Services. They all bear a responsibility.
So why are they still separated? What's at the crux of that? Is it, have the parents been deported? Are the parents out of the country and now the kids are stuck in America? What's happened?
Some of the parents have been deported on the promise that they would be reunited. That was a false promise. Some of the parents are still in this country, but the Department of Homeland Security doesn't have sufficient information to bring them together. We've received closed briefings, and the basic conclusion here is that this policy is a result of a conscious effort to deter asylum seekers from coming to this country by convincing them that they will face more pain here than they would by facing the murder, violence, and gang warfare in their own country.
So I understand that's what Sessions, that's what Trump wanted to happen. What I don't understand is when they implemented the policy, how were they not able to trace? How are they not able to put 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds back with their parents? Who ultimately fumbled that responsibility?
And that's what the American people deserve to know, and we don't know the answer yet. We're going to begin finding out tomorrow, but I think there has to be accountability.
But isn't it remarkable we don't know? Isn't it remarkable?
Was there even a plan? Was there a plan?
There was no plan. You know, when I visited the border, Elise, now almost 6 weeks ago, what I saw, and I said it when I came back, was no plan, no path, no system for reuniting these children with their parents. I looked into the eyes of a 2-year-old girl in her father's arms who faced possible separation from her father, and he was close to tears. But he had walked 30 days across Mexico to escape the violence and persecution in his country simply so his daughter could live and have the opportunity to be in this country. But there was no plan to keep them together. There was no plan to reunite them if they were separated. There never was, and that is the really untold story.
I feel like we have to call a timeout right here for viewers who may not understand the laws of this land. It is legal for people to come to this country and seek refugee status. And when they come here, that's when we're supposed to have a review. And we're supposed to have judges, courts look at it. And of course, Donald Trump's answer is separate the children, deport the parents, and fire all the judges. He says he doesn't want any judges anymore. He doesn't want any more due process for refugee status, which again, that's the basis of our country. Donald Trump's parents Donald Trump's mother came to America from overseas. Mika's mother and father escaped Hitler, came to America. Mika's mother went across the Atlantic, the boat got hit by a German torpedo, which was a thud, but escaped Nazi oppression.
And so did my dad in 1935.
That's
came
who
here at
we
17
are.
years old. He had not much more than the shirt on his back. He knew no one. He spoke no English. He was a penniless refugee who would have been sent back under Trump's current policies. There is a legal protection, but there's also a great American tradition.
Exactly.
Right.
That's our story.
Exactly. We're a nation of
we
immigrants.
And Senator, something that also is really troublesome, I mean, everything about this policy is troublesome, but Texas Tribune had reporting that about 70 children under the age of 2 have been representing themselves at asylum proceedings. How is this happening in America?
I know.
No, it's
And-
Senator, I
How are
want to move
people
on to a different
asking
topic
everything?
and a different venue for you, which is your role in the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. Brett Kavanaugh, obviously coming before you guys at some point. You have been raising some concerns both about the scope of the committee's inquiry, the ability to get a hold of all the records from the time when he was in the White House, and also about where he stands on the question of the Nixon precedent. So I want you to talk about both those things, where we are, not about so much about the political maneuvering, but about those concerns. Will he protect Robert Mueller? How serious is the scrutiny your committee is going to give to this nomination?
First of all, we need the documents. And right now, we're being denied all the documents that we need to review this nomination. And the reason we need the documents is that there's no telling what he may have written and what's relevant when he was staff secretary to President Bush. We already know that on some of the issues, like the signing statements relating to illegal detention, he took certain positions. But we need to confirm what he tells us by having all the documents. The question is what they're hiding. Why are they concealing some of these documents? I won't meet with this nominee and certainly would urge my colleagues to vote against him if we are denied those documents. Second, on the issue of presidential power, he has a very expansive view of what the president's powers can be. First of all, the president can refuse to enforce a law if he feels that it is unconstitutional. Second, he should be able to fire the special counsel for any reason or no reason at all, and that makes him a possible deciding vote. Also, on the subpoena power, he's questioned the validity of the Tapes case. That Tapes case, you'll recall, was in the Watergate era and decided unanimously by a Supreme Court in an opinion written by the Chief Justice Warren Burger, a Nixon appointee. So this questioning of the issue of whether the president's above the law is extremely serious. If his position is the president's above the law, I don't see how any of my colleagues can vote for it.
But Senator, without diminishing the importance of everything you just said, in the kind of real world of politics, it seems like the Republicans are absolutely locked in step here on whether maybe Rand Paul, but mostly locked in step here on whether they're going to vote for it. You had 3 red state Democrats, as you know, who voted for Gorsuch. Is there really much doubt that he's going to get confirmed in the end?
I think there is doubt, Steve, mainly because in these documents, if we get them, there may be bombshells and smoking guns and other very revealing evidence that goes to his views on these critical issues, not just presidential power, but also Roe v. Wade and his committing, apparently, he passed the Trump litmus test to automatically overrule it on health care issues. So I think we need to take this case to the American people, and I think the American people are going to want a check and balance on this president particularly. I think they're going to want someone who is in favor of a free press, especially with this president.
So let's talk about Republicans and the Mueller investigation. You, of course, have a couple of House Republicans who are playing the role of Vladimir Putin's poodles, embarrassing themselves, really just being dupes, useful idiots for Vladimir Putin. But on the Republican side in the Senate, some strong words, again, from Richard Burr, the chairman of the Intel Committee, saying the FISA warrants were actually in line, and the judges, the Republican judges, did the right thing there. It seems that more and more Republicans are speaking out strongly in support of Robert Mueller's investigation going to its end.
There's no question that Trump's cronies in the House are threatening impeachment of Rod Rosenstein, which is very impactful, and also threatening the special counsel. But we do have Republicans in the Senate beginning to show some signs of resistance to this consistent, concerted campaign against the special counsel. Remember, this campaign has been ongoing for some time, not just the president calling it a witch hunt, but also some of his, I hesitate to say stooges, but surrogates in the House, saying that it is all made up. We know from the close to 30 indictments and 5 convictions, there's a lot of evidence.
Of Russians, by the way, this is it. They're not just covering for Donald Trump anymore. They're not Trump's chumps anymore. They are Vladimir Putin's useful idiots, because Mueller's indicted more Russians than Americans. This is a Russian story that these Republican dupes or in the House of Representatives, they're covering for Vladimir Putin. They should get their contributions converted to rubles now.
Well, and the remarkable thing about that indictment, if you read it, of the 12 Russians, is there is no way these Russians were freelancing. They are military intelligence operatives under orders from Vladimir Putin. Yeah. Instead of inviting him to this country, he should be indicted in this country. And the people who are cozying up to him are simply aiding and abetting an ongoing attack on this country.
It continues.
Senator Blumenthal hesitates to say stooges, but I don't think you would hesitate to say stooges.
Yes, no, we don't. Senator Richard Blumenthal, thank you so much.
I do like Putin's poodles.
That's very good. Very strong, very strong.
Because it is really, if you think about it, how remarkable that there are a few Republicans in the House of Representatives who are literally covering up an enemy's attempt to undermine American democracy. Think about how remarkable that is. How do you go back to your constituents and say, I'm trying to impeach the guy that is running an investigation against our enemies, trying to infiltrate American democracy and undermine it? Try to put that one on a bumper sticker.
We'll try.
Joe, I really think that you're doing an injustice to the dogs of America.
Yes.
Okay.
Putin's patsies.
Senator, thank you. We'll be watching as you present a resolution today on the press as well. We'll get to that. Coming up, the Trump-Cohen drama goes public, and it's getting really ugly. We're going to bring in both a former judge and a U.S. attorney from the office now investigating the president's former fixer. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.